It's a pleasure to see so many people connected this time. As said, the Alumni Committee started this activity just in 2021, and we are organizing now and then meetings and opportunity. So I will start sharing my screen just to give you to update, and then I will let the floor to our speaker actually. So I think I can put this aside. Perfect. Today we will have our first webinar, and we will have Dr. Moja Birk and Dr. Nika Brick from Cancer Registry of Republic of Slovenia, who will present us tips for preparing an understandable and visually attractive presentation and or video. Moja and Nika are two past participants of the prize, and also Moja was the last year winner. So we are really pleased to have them with us today. Just before let them the stage, I want just to make this announcement. As mentioned, the prize, the Enrico Iglesias Prize, born as a joint contest with the International Association of Cancer Registry Conference. And this year again, there will be the possibility to participate in the prize. It was recently announced that the conference will be held this year in Granada, Spain, on the 14th, 16th November. And I think that yesterday or the day before, also the abstract submission process started, opened, and soon there will be also the opening of the call for application for the Enrico Iglesias Prize. So for the moment, there is no yet clear set date, but we want just take this opportunity to announce that there will be again the possibility to compete for this prize. And so if you are younger than 35 and you are working in cancer registration fields or something related to this epidemiological field, have a look to the Fondo Elena Moroni website and to the prize page to remain update on this. And the second thing that I want to take the opportunity to announce today is that during the International Association Cancer Registry Conference to be held in Granada, there will be, we want to organize an in-person meeting of the Alumni Committee. So if among you there are some alumni of the Enrico Iglesias Prize or some future participants in the prize for this year, keep in mind that we are thinking about having a half-a-day meeting, probably the day after of the conference or the afternoon after of the conference, depending on the conference program. But it will be really a pleasure to see some of you there in November. And now I think it's the moment to let the stage to our speakers. So I will stop the sharing, and Moja and Nika can start. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. I'm Nika. I hope you can hear me well. Moja and I were asked to make a little presentation about our video presentation for the Enrico Iglesias Prize, and we are very honored to do so. I will share my screen so you can see my presentation. We've decided to divide this topic into two parts. So I will take the first part, and I will talk about more of the graphical side, because this is a topic I'm close to since my master is in graphical and interactive communications. And Moja will later talk about more about how we prepared for the video, how we recorded, and a little bit about editing. And so the topic is quite broad, so maybe if you have specific questions, you can interrupt me while I'm talking, or afterwards you can talk about things more in depth. So before I talk about anything graphical, visual, the first thing that is good to consider before you start preparing your presentation is your content. Now, of course, content will impact your visuals, but it's really the most important thing, and there's nothing you are not going to design it without your content. So the first two things I have on my list are structure and narrative. And usually if you're doing a scientific presentation, your structure actually comes built in, since most abstracts or articles already have a structure. And if you're not doing a scientific presentation, then you should probably write down everything you're trying to say. This is what I personally find helpful, is just to write down everything I want to say. And usually during this process, the structure and the narrative will come to me, or see maybe a few options what I can do, and decide maybe I want to make one point and go around in a circle and come back to it, or perhaps maybe give a broad view and then narrow it down or something like that. This is just like the basic structure of your presentation. The next thing to consider is the level of complexity. This highly depends on your audience. If the audience is very broad, maybe the level of complexity should not be super high. This is pretty obvious, but still, it's, I think, necessary to consider. And of course, the main messages that you are trying to impart to your audience. What should you know about the audience? Well, the first thing probably you need to know is how broad their knowledge is on your topic. Of course, if you are talking to like your colleagues, scientific colleagues, they probably have a similar knowledge to you, and they are more interested in the new things that you found out. But it's like the audience can be quite varied, so you need to consider if how widely you want to talk about it. I have written also here, what is the setting? This means, are you gonna be talking live? Are you gonna be making a video? Are you, I don't know, making a poster or something like that? This is important for the format, and also if perhaps the audience maybe needs to hear you better. Are they getting perhaps like something printed out? Will they have something else to reference besides what you're saying and what you're showing? So these are all things that you should consider. And the last thing I think is, what are their interests? So maybe for, if you are mostly doctors, it's possible that you will be speaking at public health conferences and things like that. Or maybe you will be speaking at more statistical conferences, and the audiences of those overlap a little bit, but not too much. And you should probably think about which part of your research you want to emphasize and which parts you want to limit. So this is an example, a very basic example of a visual identity. So once you have your content down, doesn't have to be exact, but like in general, you know what you're going to be saying. You want to start thinking about your design. And the first thing that you probably should do is like choose basic graphic elements. Now, most large organizations, especially brands, have something called a visual identity, or graphical identity, or brand identity. This has many names. It's not super typical for research organizations to have this, but it's possible, especially not if it's not super in depth, just the basics. So what are the basic parts? The first thing is the logo. Then you have the color palette. So which colors are you using? And for example, typography. So typeface, fonts, things like that. I have an example from a company that's not a research company, it's a software company. And their visual identity has a guideline. So each visual identity, if it's a good one, you should have a guideline or a guide, which is like a little brochure or a PDF document that explains how you should be using these graphical elements that are part of your identity. So here is the example for the logo, and they just give you the logo itself and the ways in which it can be used. Sometimes they will also give you how you are not supposed to use it, which sometimes is the larger part of the guideline. This is a color palette example. So this is quite a few colors. If you are making like a little brand identity for yourself, it's probably best to use less than this, maybe like 3 or 4 colors, and some of them should be neutrals. Because this is for a very big company and they have many materials that they want to make, so they need more colors. If you find yourself needing more colors, then that's good. But like the materials that you will most likely use this for is your PowerPoint presentation, maybe Word templates, but you can also use it for printables or maybe signage at an event. Basically anything that it's at least a little bit public facing should follow your visual identity if you want to associate that with your company or your organization. If you decide maybe you want to separate yourself or your presentation a little bit from the organization, you should use different colors, maybe just specifically for that presentation to choose something, or you can have like a personal brand if you want, but this takes some setup at the beginning, so maybe it's not a good use of your time. The last thing that I wanted to mention is typography. This is also a big part of design that it's maybe not super obvious to somebody that isn't like a graphical designer. But if you are using many different typefaces or not careful with this, it's also maybe not. It does have an impact, especially also about readability, but I will come to that later. If you don't have a visual identity, you can choose like these basic graphical elements before you start making your presentation, because after you have some of your content already placed, it's hard to change everything. So it's better if you stick to it in the beginning and then just keep at it. And also it's hard to align things after you change the fonts. I think the best way to start, if you don't have anything, is just to take the default white background and black font from PowerPoint or whichever software you use, and then perhaps choose 2 colors to and perhaps like 1 graphical element to add. This is something to know what to use, is something that comes with practice, but also it doesn't matter that much. Or some things matter, but not which specific tone you choose for the color. It doesn't. Okay, so I wanted to focus on 4 concepts. They're not really concepts, more like things I noticed that are really important, but I call them concepts. for this presentation. And the first one is limiting the amount of content in one view. So by one view, I mean like one slide or one page or whatever the medium that you uses. And for example, I have a few examples. These are very basic examples, maybe a bit obvious, but I think they illustrate what I'm trying to say. So the first thing that I think is you should throw out things that aren't necessary. For example, if you're doing a presentation, oftentimes, especially me as an audience member, I usually cannot both read and listen at the same time, especially if it's a long speech and many words on the presentation. So it's helpful if the text or any content on the presentation is very connected to what you are saying, or there's very little of it. So I think that's the best way to go. So in this case, obviously there's a lot of text. Of course, the trouble is deciding what is the most important bits. But if you are talking along with your presentation, I think it's quite obvious which part should be emphasized. Well, I guess that's easy to say and hard to do, but I think most of you agree. So the next thing, maybe this example isn't the greatest for this limiting visual distractions. What I wanted to say here is that oftentimes you will have, for example, data visualizations, graphs, or some figures that have many marks on them that aren't bringing any information to your viewer, to your audience. And it can sometimes distract the viewer or maybe they will try to figure out what is this figure trying to say, and they're not listening to what you are saying. So if you have, or maybe you have some decorative elements that you thought looked nice, but on second consideration, maybe they will distract. So this is, I think it's helpful to show this to another person, your presentation, and then they can tell you when was it too much information, at the same time when it was too little. So you can see maybe this is extra work, yes, but if you want to improve it. Then another thing that is maybe you cannot reduce the information on your slide, but you can focus your audience to whatever part you want them to focus on. So my example is very simple, just circle around the number that you want to show, but you could also use like an arrow, or you can use PowerPoint animations to guide the viewer through the slide. So maybe move something, or when you are clicking, go from one thing to another to let them know which part you're talking about. This is when you have a lot of things that you want to put on one slide and it doesn't fit. So I think the best way is just to separate the slides. So this is actually an example from my first Enrico Anglesio entry. And I was going to put this sort of categorization information next to how the data is structured. But I decided it doesn't fit, it didn't look good. So I separated it to a slide before, and I circled with the red which part I'm going to show next. So the arrows are showing the order of the slides. So for the next data structure, I circled the next part. So I think that made it easier to follow what I'm talking about. The next concept I wanted to focus on is readability and accessibility, especially for scientific presentation where aesthetic isn't all that important. You should really focus on readability and accessibility. Often design choices are about choosing aesthetics versus readability. This is not always, I mean, oftentimes you can do both at the same time. So you don't have to sacrifice having a good looking presentation for readability. What I mean by readability, of course, is how well can your audience read what is on your slide or recognize the figures or just recognize whatever it is you're trying to show. Here specifically, I'm talking about the readability of text. So what are the things, the choices, the design choices that affect readability? Font face, size, color, and contrast. Font face is a font. In a normal language, we usually say font, even though it's a slightly different concept to typeface or font family, or there are quite a few expressions that can be used for this. So the font faces, I wasn't sure how deep to go into this, but you have serif and sans serif font faces, and serifs have little tails on the letters, and usually for web or for digital, it's more readable to have without the tips, but actually both types of fonts can be very readable. Another thing that makes it readable is the height. So if this is a letter H, this height, it's called X height. If it's higher, usually the font is more readable. Maybe you can, if you want to know more, we can talk about this at the end of the, but I didn't give you any examples. Actually, the font that I use in this presentation is sans serif. The size of the font is how big is the font, which is fairly straightforward. And color and contrast. Color and contrast are very intertwined. I also didn't want to go very deep into color theory, but mainly what you're looking for is you are able to read the text. So that means that the background has to be much brighter than the text, or the opposite. This also depends, for example, if you're going to be talking at a conference and there will be, for example, a projector. If you will be on a screen, usually it's better to have a dark background on a projector and a bright background on a screen. But again, this is, if you can, it's good to test it out in the actual place where you will be having the presentation. If not, then it's usually best to go dark on lights. This is just a very general rule, but the more important thing is the actual context. Again, I would like to emphasize considering the audience. If for example, maybe your audience is a bit older, or specifically maybe affected by some disease, it's what are their what is hard for them to see your content or hear. I've written here nearsightedness, impaired hearing, color blindness. Color blindness is quite common, but if you if you search online for like a color scheme that helps, that is also all the colors can be seen as separate by people with color blindness, with different color blindness. This is a good like precaution to take, since probably at least one person in your audience is colorblind. Okay, yeah. So there are other things to consider, but it's first you have to look at the audience and then think about what they might need. The third thing is a format. So this is what also. So in the top left we have like a landscape format, and then on the right portrait format. So vertical, and this is, for example, if they are reading a PDF on a large screen, it will be in portrait mode. If they're watching a presentation, usually it's in landscape. For some posters, they will give you different instructions, sometimes portrait, sometimes landscape. On the bottom, I have like, for example, like a tablet size or a phone. So you probably cannot make your presentation fit everything perfectly. So you should think about what is the audience going to use more, and just design for that, because it's quite hard to design one thing that fits it. There are websites that do that, but this is unlikely that you will make a website, especially for a specific presentation. So this is definitely something that you need to look at before you start making your presentation. The last thing is spacing and alignment. So these are two basic design concepts. I wanted, for spacing, what you want to look at is mainly that things are not bumping into each other, that the spacing is relatively equal among different elements. It's also something that comes with practice, but for example, here you can see that I moved this text a bit lower because I thought here wasn't enough space and here was too much space. So I moved everything lower. It may be your personal preference is that this looks worse. That's up to you. If you think, I think you can just decide whatever you like, but in general, it's usually seen as better design if the margins, so the margin is the spacing on the sides and on top and bottom, are relatively equal. But of course, if you are trying to make a statement or show something else, you will put it lower or higher or whatever the statement you want to make is. For alignment, it's also kind of the same thing. You usually want to have things that are not out of order with each other. So I was here, I have this as an example. And I just wanted to give you actually a practical how to make this in PowerPoint. I don't know if everybody knows how to do this, but I will show you anyway. So what I want now is have all the spacing the same between these and have them all aligned. So I will select everything. And in PowerPoint, if you're not familiar, to select something, you have to go all the way around. So here I will choose arrange, go under align, and then I can align middle. And again, I will go under align and distribute horizontally. So now I have everything aligned and spaced out quite evenly. There's maybe a bit more space on this side, but I'm happy with that because the logo is on this side. So maybe a little bit more up, but I think this is a very simple example to show you what I mean by spacing and alignment. So the last thing that I wanted to say is that there are many things that you can decide when trying to design anything or presentation specifically, and it's a lot of extra work if you want to improve all the aspects. So I think it's important to find a balance, like when is it worth to put so much work in? It's probably not for every presentation you will make, but maybe for the 1 or 2 most important ones in the year that you make, it's good to put in the extra work. And also for if you prepare your visual identity before, like you will just do that one time, and you can create your PowerPoint template and use it every time you make a presentation. So you don't have to repeat the work. And I think, and also if you will not be able to fit all the requirements, so you have to pick and choose which one you want to focus on more for that presentation. So it's always a bit of a balance. Okay, so I will give the word to Moitza now, and she can tell you a bit more about our video. Thank you.
Thank you, Nika. Hello, everyone. I'm Moitza, and I'm also from Slovenian Cancer Registry. And I will share my screen. I hope everything is here. I hope everything is okay. Despite the fact that I have master's degree in applied statistics and not in communication science, I would like to say something about the oral part of the presentation. At this point, you have content, you know how would you like to present it, and you also have some graphical presentation. Now, for me, it's very important to prepare myself, because when I'm well prepared for my presentation, I'm more confident, my speech is more fluent, and I have control under the time that is given to my presentation. When you are preparing for your presentation, you can write draft or exact text of what you're going to talk about, but the most important thing is that you are prepared to the extent that your speech is fluent and meaningful. Okay, so when you are rehearsing your presentation, you can imagine that you are already presenting it to your audience. While presenting, it is important that you pay attention, that your speech is loud enough, that the speech is clear, and that the speech is as natural as possible. Pay attention to the speech speed. If you talk too fast, the audience may not understand you, but if you talk too slow, you can be monotonous and maybe they will not pay attention what you're talking about. You can be relaxed while speaking, but not too much. You can emphasize important content with your voice and nonverbal communication, but gesticulation and mimic emphasize what is said, and it is important that they are in accordance with the context, and that you don't mislead your audience attention. When you get stuck, maybe it's better if you stay silent, than to use too many fillers or to mumble. It is important that you are confident with what you are talking about and that you make some connection with your audience. If your presentation is alive, then you embrace your audience with your gaze. But if the presentation is online, you must look at camera to do that. Next, I'm going to talk about the recording of the presentation. Some of the tips can be also good for online presentation. So, the room where you are recording must be quiet without any background noises. It's better if the room is smaller than bigger, because in the smaller room, the sound is captured better. And it's very good if you turn off your phone to not be distracted. The second important thing is that the room has enough light that is bright enough. My room today is, I think, a little bit too bright. The sunlight is very strong. So first, you prepare camera and microphone. The camera must be placed in front of the window. The source of the light must not be behind you. If you look at the pictures on the presentation, they are captured with the same camera in the same room with the same camera settings. The difference is that in the first picture, Windows is in front of me, like today, and in the second picture, window is behind me. So the light is very important. If it's possible, put your camera at the eye level. If you had a camera and tripod, use it. If you use webcam, maybe you can put it on the screen which is high enough. If you use a camera on the laptop, maybe you put some books under your laptop so that the camera is around eye level. Usually, you want to be in the center of the picture. And it's good if your eyes are in the upper third of the picture. But the most important thing is that before you start to record, you check picture framing, check positioning of yourself on the picture, and check if the picture is clear enough. So before you start to record, check if everything is okay. Then test your speaker. Test if your voice is loud enough, if your speech is clear enough, and if your speech is understandable. When we filmed our videos for Enrico Iglesias Prize, we chose nice, quiet, bright room. The sunlight was quite well, but anyway, we turned on one extra light. We used camera and we had put it before in front of the window on the tripod. And we used a handheld audio recorder to record the sound, because from Nika's experiences, we know that camera does not capture sound good enough. So we have special microphone, and I made some mistake. We put the microphone on the shirt, and I put my hair through it. So my hair moved and produced some sound. And I heard it when I edited my video. When everything was recorded and nothing could be done, I heard the sound. It was not too disturbing, and it is there, but now I know that the hair does not go through microphone. have microphone. So we had camera, we had a sound recorder, and we put our laptop in front of the camera, because on the laptop we had support text. So we looked at the camera and if we needed to look at the text, we just read it. So on the bookshelf, we had a computer mouse to scroll. And for us, it was very important that we stood on the same place through all recording, because we recorded our presentations 3 times. And when we edited our videos, we used all the 3 recordings. And so it was very important that we always stood on the same spot. So yeah, when you're recording, you can record yourself everything in one go, or multiple times, or sequences by themselves. It's up to you. Yeah, and of course, we edited our videos. We edited it in Adobe Premiere Pro. It was very interesting. Nika has a lot of knowledge about it and give me some tips. So thank you, Nika. Here you see that when we recorded ourselves, there were no presentation on the wall. We incorporated it when we edited our videos. But I think that editing videos is very interesting and wide topic. So I will not explain it into the depths, but if you have some questions, please ask them. We will be happy to explain something to you. And that's all from our side for now. I hope you enjoyed our presentations, and I hope that you have some questions and comments for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that we can open to questions. Feel free to open your microphone and directly speak, or to send your question in the chat, as you prefer. Is there anyone who wants to break the ice and make the first question? Okay, maybe I can start and then we see if someone else will have some question for you. So thanks again, and it was really, really interesting to see what you presented and also to see how you make the video presentation for the Enrico Inglese Prize. Because the first time that we see the video, we were really wondering how you were able to have these professional things with all the presentation on the wall behind you or you inside the presentation. So it was really, really nice to have some insights. Of course, I don't know much about video editing, so I think that this could be really a topic eventually for another presentation. But my question is more on the preparation and the rehearsing part. So I think it's always good to be well prepared, but how one can avoid to memorize things, to seems more to be enough confident, but not to go just behind what you have written down, or kind of a memorization practice, because I always struggle a bit with this.
Maybe I can answer this. For me, I think the difference really is how confident I am about the topic and how well I know it. For example, for this graphical things, I can talk without stopping. and for maybe for my presentation for Enrico and Licio, it was necessary to memorize some things and to have support text. But I think that maybe if you're presenting it for the first time, it's very hard to just speak freely. I don't think maybe if when you're more experienced, you can talk about this topic free, but I think the first time or the first couple of times, it's very hard to just talk without support or without memorizing things. But maybe somebody can do it, but not me. So for us, it was like a lot of preparation to look like we are talking freely, but we were not really very. I don't think that we're a very good speaker, or I'm not a very good speaker, and so all the preparation made it look, I think, better than it would be maybe if I was talking live. I think.
Thank you.
I have a comment. May I?
Please go ahead.
Thank you, Lydia. And the comment concerned both the presentation, the one from Moika and the other from Nika. Unless I missed it, I did not have any comment about the quality of the sound. I mean the technical quality of the sound. Can you see the machine that is behind my shoulder here? Can you see this machine? I can make it turn. So, do you know what is that machine? Any of you has never seen this machine or a machine similar to this one? No? Well, this has been the most important technology in the reproduction of the sound before the digitalization of the sound. So this is an analogic machine, and the sound recorded with this kind of machine is still today the better possible sound, the better possible technology. This technology has been developed during the Second World War, the 40s, the beginning of the 40s, by the Germans, and then it has been after the war has been developed by the Americans, some European, and so on. Well, the quality of the sound that we have the quality of the image that we have with our PC or smartphones is excellent. We can do excellent photo with our smartphone. While the quality of the sound is quite poor, the quality of the sound of our computer is quite poor, and so the quality of the sound that is entered in the platform like Zoom and all that is quite poor. What is your opinion about that? How can we improve the quality of the sound during our Zoom conference?
Well, the sound is recorded by the built-in microphones usually, so built in the laptop and the camera, so that the quality is not very good. And that's why for my first video, I used inbuilt microphone in the camera, and it was okay, but not good. And then for last year, we borrowed a handheld microphone recorder, so that made it much better, and we could basically attach it to our shirt and put it in our back pockets, because it's a big device big like this, so it cannot, maybe I could hold it also like this, but it's quite big. But for Zoom conference, I think maybe if everybody put sounds like softening, if you're in a big room, even now, this is not a very big room, but I have quite bare walls. And if there was, for example, like some kind of blanket around or something that softens the sound, it makes it better. But if the microphone is not of such a good quality, it doesn't really do much. So that's why professional sound recorders all have like very expensive microphones that they will put on the table and record. So yeah, I don't know that average laptop owner can make a really good sound just like that. But yes, all the things that we mentioned, so the quiet environment and soft surroundings. Also, a lot of times people will go into their wardrobe where they have clothes and record sound, but then for the video it's not very good. Oh yeah, that's also an idea for sound quality.
Thank you very much. Is there other question, comments?
Yes, I have one question and one comment, if I can.
Yeah, sure.
First of all, thank you very, very much for the presentation. I think that it was very useful. And the first, I begin with the question. My question is if you can suggest, just a moment, if you can suggest a possibly free website to where to download templates in case some organization or institute doesn't have a visual identity, as you said at the beginning of the presentation. And then I have a more or less a comment, an idea to discuss, especially in the statistics, in the statistic field or mathematic field. We don't use only PowerPoint, but also LaTeX. It is very widespread, and it is practical when you have a lot of formula or demonstration to write and to present. And with LaTeX, I think that it is more, it is easier to create a layout with a few material in the slide, and because the software itself set the slide, so you don't have to do it on your own. But it is not very attractive as PowerPoint. And so I would like to know if you had some experience with this software versus PowerPoint versus LaTeX in the statistics field. And sorry for the English or the pronunciation.
No, unfortunately, I don't have experiences with LaTeX. Maybe Nika, if you have something for.
Yes, I did work in LaTeX, not for statistical things, but I had to use it for my bachelor thesis. And yes, I would say it's very different to PowerPoint, and the purpose is also quite different. I think the final product of LaTeX is always PDF, so it's more appropriate for maybe printing. not very much for presentations. It's also, you have to be quite well versed in it to edit the look. And it's, I think, more work than in PowerPoint or some kind of other presentation software. It's also it's possible if you use also RStudio or R, you can generate LaTeX documents in R. So that's a way to automate it. And if you incorporate in the code some graphical things, so it will take some work, but it's possible to make the LaTeX in the final PDF more have more visual elements of your visual identity if you want to include that. But I would not use LaTeX for some kind of for like a presentation in front of an audience.
Thank you.
Oh, you had another question about
yeah, about the website for free templates, for attractive templates.
Yeah, I looked a bit while you were asking the questions on Google, and I see some websites for, so if you Google PowerPoint templates, you can find something. I don't know, but these are all only, so these are just for PowerPoint. So if you want like a visual identity, it will usually include more than just a PowerPoint template, so maybe a Word or a logo or things like this. So you cannot really get a free visual identity because you have to sort of tailor it to your organization. And it's, if you, I think if somebody in your team has some kind of maybe graphical design ability, it doesn't have to be much, but maybe you already have the logo and you can choose a few colors and look at other guides. So like a brand identity guide or something like that. If you Google this, you'll see many examples of companies that will show you exactly how they designed it and how to use these elements. So maybe it's just what I show you, so the logo colors and the font, but you can have, like, for example, our PowerPoint is also part of our visual identity that I made a few years ago. It's not very good, but it's something that we use because we have to use something. So they decided that we need one of these, so I created it. But it's maybe, yeah, I think if you try and you play with this design, you can find a simple way to show your visual identity. But also, if you don't want to work on this, you can also hire a designer. And it's maybe it depends on how much you want, or like what's the scope of your everything that you need. It can cost a lot, but if you just want something simple, maybe it's not so much.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Thanks. Are there any other questions? Otherwise, we are already running out of time, but it would be really nice if someone has other question or comment. We still have a couple of minutes. Okay, while maybe you think about, I want just to share one last slide. So thank you again for your attendance and for the presentation. It was really interesting, and I think that there is always something new to learn about this topic. And I have not done any statistics of how many of you today are already know as a alumni committee or as Fondo Elena Moroni and the Enrico Anglese Prize, but this presentation has been recorded and will be posted on the Fondo Elena Moroni YouTube channel, and you can find the link here. And also, if you want to have a deeper insights on what we are doing and on the prize, please have a look to the Fondo Elena Moroni website. And specifically, there are two sections. One is the prize section, which is the one where all the announcements on the prize are done. And the other one is the alumni section, where there is some details on our activities as the alumni committee and cabinet. And with this, I think we can close the webinar. I have just one question to Moshe and Nika. Could you please maybe share some reference that you use to prepare your presentation, or some good links that one can refer to have some tips for our future?
Yeah, maybe we can prepare a list of links and
yes,
send it to
think
you.
so, not
Okay.
yes, not now, but if you would be really great, I think, to also have some reference that, because of course, as you say, that the topic is so broad that and so wide that there is even much more than what you. There was just the main important point, so it would be also great to have some additional reference.
Of course, we will do that.
Okay, so thank you very much again. It was a pleasure. Thank you all the ones who attended and make the discussion vivid, and see you soon to our next event of the alumni committee, or if not sooner, at maybe in Granada at our in-person meeting.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody.